Okay. Welcome everybody to DisruptEDtv, where every little idea could make a big difference, big positive difference in your classroom or in your school. And we're here today with an old friend, Don Wettrick, who's back for a return appearance on a working session of DisruptEDtv. Don Wettrick is the founder of StartEdUp. He is the innovation coordinator at Noblesville High School and also teaches there. This is in Indianapolis, Indiana. He's a widely read broadcaster, and very well known to many teachers, and you should certainly follow him on various forms of social media. At the end of the program, he'll tell you how to do that. We're in Atlantic City, New Jersey at Texpo 2018, which is hosted by the New Jersey Association of School Administrators. That is a mouthful.
Absolutely, you did it right.
I've taken too much time away from you already.
Exactly.
All right, now listen, Don.
Yeah.
This is a working session where we start to give teachers specific ideas that they can begin to use tomorrow.
Right.
Because this change is coming. You're the guy who's been around the corner that they all want to look around.
Sure.
And you're back to tell us what you see.
Right. I think one of the things that let's talk emerging trends, right? And I'll talk about some of the emerging trends that have come out of my class even. I think chief among them has been the new esports movement. And this is an unusual time in the sense that like whenever you buy a car and all of a sudden when you drive, all of a sudden you start noticing your car more, like, hey, there's another, like I drive around Hyundai and I'm like, oh, there's a lot more Hyundais on the road. Right. Once you're aware of esports, you're gonna see how ubiquitous it is, right? It's really, really popular, it's growing. Matter of fact, side story, more people last year watched the League of Legends finals than the NBA finals, the Major League Baseball playoffs, or the World Series, and the NHL Stanley Cup combined.
No way.
Yeah, worldwide, not just U.S., but worldwide. So it's a huge thing. A lot of times kids will work really hard for things that they believe in and love. You know what they believe in and love? Esports. So a lot of students now are starting to look at this as the new football and basketball, and I mean, it's seriously, it's starting to replace it. Now, a lot of people my age aren't aware of it. So 3 of my innovation students said we should have an esports team because now more colleges are providing scholarships. I'm not making this up.
Really?
There's
You
now
can get a scholarship.
full ride athletic scholarships for esports.
I can get a 4-year ride to that's terrific.
And more colleges are doing it. And it's going to be bigger and bigger. So I personally think that you should look into it. Now, there's various levels, right? So the creme de la creme is like PC gaming, keyboard, mouse.
Right.
So that's a kind of a high school thing. But how many grade school kids would freak out if you allowed some Minecraft time in the classroom?
Right, wow.
Or even after school?
They would love it.
A gaming club. Some of the kids that like, some of the more cartoonish games that are fun, so a Rocket League, or, Minecraft build-a-thons, or what's the, Hearthstone, and what's the other big one? There's another big, it's kind of a first-person shooter game, but it's cartoonish, so it doesn't seem too violent. But these are the things that students already like, and these areas are growing. Like, I don't know how many of your audience members know about Twitch. Twitch is starting to overtake YouTube. What is the #1 thing on YouTube? Gaming.
Really?
Is it really?
Okay.
Easily. #1 thing, other than kittens, is gaming. Twitch now is almost exclusively for gaming. So these guys, like, seriously, and this, I didn't understand it at first, people will watch people play video games.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And my son, I asked him, like, Grant, what are you doing? He looked at me and goes, I'm getting better. And then one of my students goes, he says, because I was a baseball player, and I used to watch on Saturday mornings, I used to watch This Week in Baseball. And I used to watch that, and I just thought, I'd watch my favorite players, and I was like, I want to be that good. I'd watch, Steve Sachs, Ron Say, I'd look at Pete Rose, and I said, because I want to be better. A lot of our kids are watching video games
To get better.
to be better.
To pick up the skills.
Absolutely.
And they're identifying as role models people who are good at esports
Absolutely.
and wanting to emulate them, and will be pretty much
And it's a huge market.
like any sport.
Right. Well, and like, seriously, the best of the best are so good. Like, a lot of people, like, I could go pro. It's starting to turn into like a professional sport of, no, you can't unless you spend hours doing it. But there's a lot of areas in esports that are profitable. Our kids will learn how to be streamers. They'll learn how to do marketing. They'll learn how to do advertising. They'll learn the esports, drink industry, the hardware, the software. It's just, it's a huge area. And I personally think that schools should start taking a look at it. And just because I hate to say geeky kids, but the kids that are disenfranchised with the traditional sports,
Now all of a sudden,
it's their sport.
There's
Matter of fact, Noblesville became the first. We were the first high school to treat it as a sport. We're trying to get it approved that you'll be able to letter jacket.
Really?
At esports.
That's fantastic.
I was just thinking if I had this when I was a kid, I might have gotten a jacket. There was no way I was going to get it with
They're
regular
in the Hall of
sport.
Fame.
And again, we're trying to make school an inviting place.
Yeah,
and
well,
maybe even like, I personally think this is a crime deterrent.
That is,
Kids that are bored, you know what happens when kids are bored? Bad things
Bad
sometimes.
things start
If
happening.
you allow your school to open up maybe over the weekend or after school, and you allow them to build some Minecraft villages, you allow them to play some League of Legends. I think this is a
it's also
time.
fun. It's fun for faculty. I mean, we
Right.
have faculty members who play some of those games themselves. And
Absolutely.
they're natural coaches in these things. They like to
Absolutely.
facilitate this.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to ask obvious questions. Doesn't cost a lot.
I mean, to start off, and it's funny. If anybody wants to contact my students, I've got 3 students that now do consulting for other schools.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And they'll charge. They don't do it for free anymore.
Okay,
They're taking it like a business. They're a business.
Do they take credit cards?
Yes, they do. They got a swiper. Yes, they do. They do.
Which is another skill.
Yeah, right, another
But
skill.
they have 3 different packages because some
that is
schools
cool.
we have a $0 budget, and they will train you how to. Because a lot of kids will bring in their consoles.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you have a night where you charge $5 a kid, but the kid who brings in his Wii Switch or whatever, or he's free. And then all of a sudden, those $5 a night, all of a sudden that starts to pool money, and then the school can start. Because at the elementary school levels, you can buy consoles, and that's not too much money.
right.
But students will bring it in, so you can start it on no dollars. But it's the execution and how you run it. Because some elementary schools have movie nights where you pay $5 to watch Kung Fu Panda. This would be something else.
Yeah.
But then they have packages from consoles all the way up to PCs, and PCs are more expensive.
That's,
But they'll teach you how to do that.
No, that's exciting. Actually, it sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, it's very easy to say, I wish my kid would stop playing video games and get up and go outside.
Yeah, there is a balance.
Yeah.
Ironically enough, in my last plug, on our esports team, for every one day they practice, they have to work out one day.
That
okay,
is not a bad. That's
So
not a bad.
we have practices Monday through Thursday. On Monday and Wednesday they game. On Tuesday and Thursday we work out.
So you really have to have a
This
balance.
is so cool.
Yeah.
DisruptEDtv, where every little idea, and we just heard a couple of them, can make a big difference in your classroom, your school. We'll be right back after this break.
Don't go anywhere.
Great. That was.
They come to Brookdale with a passion for healthcare, cybersecurity, fashion merchandising. They graduate and transfer to universities like Georgetown, NJIT, and the Fashion Institute of Technology. They begin their careers as registered nurses, security engineers, and fashion designers. This is what success looks like. And here is where it all starts. This is Brookdale, college redefined, success reimagined. Take your next step at brookdalecc.edu.
Well, welcome back to DisruptEDtv. My name is Alcini.
Joe Osmendi.
We're talking today with Don Wettrick, who is, if you haven't heard of him, you should have, and probably many of you already have heard of him. In that last segment, we were talking about esports,
Yeah.
Don, and that kind of lit us all up, including our production crew.
I know.
Vinny.
Ironically enough, is the production crew like it's Overwatch.
Vinny and Eric said
Yeah,
Overwatch.
yeah.
They filled in. They
It
filled
is.
in that missing name.
Overwatch, and we even talked about PUBG, which, but no, Overwatch is more for the kids. That it's cartoonish, so it doesn't seem too violent. And
Right,
it's-
right.
I don't want to say it's
And
like,
the kids are playing it, so you want to.
Right,
What you
no.
want to do is take that energy and use it.
and I will say, like, there's some parents like I don't like the first person shooter thing.
Right.
Like the king of all kings right now is League of Legends, and it's not very violent. So Overwatch is kind of that you're okay with it being sci-fi, cartoonish, shoot things,
Right.
but not like slitting someone's
It's
throat.
not.
or
It's
something.
not. It's not. It's not nasty. It's not
Absolutely.
evil. It's just
Right.
fun, which
Right,
is
right,
that's
right.
important. Okay, but in this segment, we wanted to talk about something I know is you've been around that corner.
Yeah.
You've come back. You're telling us about the freelance economy.
Yeah, I think this is one of the most important things that we need to talk about because I stated earlier that half the world's jobs, according to a lot of data, are going to be freelance or gig economy. And so we already see this, a little bit of it with like the most obvious is Uber, right? So Uber is, I'm bored, it's a Friday night, I think I'll go to work. That's a gig economy. And there's other advents out there. Matter of fact, in my city, there's a guy that invented this app called SnapShift. His name is Thor. Help me, Thor. Anyway, I forget his first name's Thor, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
But Thor basically had this app where it's kind of like Uber, except it's for the restaurant and bar industry, because they because they like Uber started off by people complaining that cabs either weren't reliable or the customer service wasn't good and they was overpriced, and so they made an app to cure all that. What they're doing with SnapShift is equally as impressive. Is that if you talk to bar owners and restaurants, people that just don't show up to work.
I need somebody to
somebody right
tend
away.
bar
Turnover
from 4
is
o'clock
high.
to midnight.
Right.
Absolutely.
So now he has an app where the app pays you, and you're like, I'm bored. I'm going to go work at a restaurant. And the partnering restaurants or bars,
Wow.
you can go and walk into a restaurant. And mind you, they have an onboarding process, but you don't have to worry about getting a paycheck from here, here, and here, and your taxes are difficult. The app pays you.
Wow, that's a great idea. Now, the adaptation that schools need to make is
Yes.
we need to start preparing our kids less for getting a job that pays a salary and more for the fact
How
that
are
half the
you
jobs.
showcasing your skills?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I'm so big on branding skills now, because the amount of people that may say, "Hey, we want to, we're looking for a coder, or we're looking for a graphic designer, we're looking for, a video editing team." They can start now, and if they start setting themselves out now, they're going to be in high demand. So again, you can have the mindset of, "Help me, government, create a job for me," or you can say, "I'm independent."
Right.
And I'm going to go work at other places. It's that entrepreneurial mindset that is going to be the gig economy, and it's a really important thing that we need to have.
Well, when
discussions
you
with
say
our
really
students
important, I
around.
want to highlight this. We're not talking about job skills still. We're talking about survival skills.
Right.
Oh,
This isn't
that's a
a,
good
what do you
point.
think of this idea? This
Right.
is going to happen if we're not
Right.
ready for it.
And we can either we can keep our head in the sand and pretend this isn't going to happen,
Right.
And then
It'll happen.
shit's going to hit the fan.
And we won't be ready, right?
And when that happens, we're going to say, why didn't we talk about this? Well, hello, I'm trying to scream this from the mountaintops, that if we're not looking at these things, there's a lot of Mother Jones, if you want to be depressed, Mother Jones a month ago had this, robots will take your job sooner than you think, I think is the title of the article. It's frightening. It's frightening.
It is scary,
You're either going to adapt or die.
really.
No one cares.
Yeah.
How many people feel sorry for the bookstore that Amazon replaced? No one.
Nobody does, really. And even if you did, what difference would it make? Because nobody's buying that way anymore.
You're either going to say, okay, I need to create new skills. I need to find things that are going to work for me. If you know that your career is going away, and just Google it, by the way. If you know that you have a 5-year runway, do something now.
Wow.
Case in point, one of my neighbors, I'm not going to name him because he's a financial planner. And he says, Don, I'm so glad I'm 55. I said, why is that? He says, I could never have any of my clients over 40 trust an algorithm, but I could never convince anybody under 30 to trust me.
Seriously, because they all want it done by a computer system. Wow, that is so
And he even
interesting.
says, I don't do it anymore.
Well-
an algorithm picks the stocks. They make the recommendations. He's just there to hold your hand and say, how risk averse are you?
Right.
Right.
He says, I'm already taking orders from an algorithm already.
Wow.
Now, mind you, there's subtleties, and I don't want people that are in the financial planning industry mad at me, but here's the reality. These bots do a really great job at picking stocks. So people my age still trust that guy,
Seriously.
but the data shows that people in their 20s are like, why am I paying you?
Why would I pay you? I
This
can
algorithm tells me what to buy.
That's okay. So, before we end this segment, we only have so much time, and it's a shame because we could talk all day to you. There's this wave coming. The school has to, it surfs up.
Yeah.
School has to grab a surfboard and ride this wave. That's
Yes.
pretty much it. So, specifically for this challenge, what do schools need to do to adapt to this? What do they need to do?
Well, first of
tomorrow?
all, to carry on with that metaphor, quit being a damn anchor.
Okay.
Quit using the word tradition.
Innovation.
Fuck your tradition.
Yeah.
We don't need it. Like, there's some things that tradition was built on, keep that. But the stuff of we've always done it this way, hey, it's innovate or die. It's sink or swim. It is ride the wave or be drowning.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing we have to do is take a look at what we do. I look at a teacher and say, what is your job? To prepare my kids for the future. Let's start taking a look at the future. And if you have that anchor, well, we can't do that. And God bless the
can't do that
teachers
because their scores
and
will go
God
down.
bless the teachers who said, I want to do this stuff, I don't have permission.
Right.
And then God bless the administrators who say, I want to do this, but the state says we can't do this.
Right.
When am I going to? So that is why I'm screaming also at lawmakers and saying, hey, this is coming.
Yeah.
This is coming.
Yeah.
Because if we all start having these kumbaya moments, then people are like, oh my gosh, this isn't we have to.
Wow.
We have to.
And you have the data to back that up, too.
Well, you do
That's-
have plenty of data.
it's
Fact,
all
we
right
know it's
there. It's
happening.
right there.
It's not
And again,
like,
that's why it reminds me of the dot-com bubble
Right.
and the housing bubble is that you can't talk about it because it's somehow going to jinx it.
well,
The current system of, the four-year college being the be-all, end-all of everything,
Right.
we need to have these conversations. And we as teachers need to feel that we're not the bad guy. We're just doing what we've been told, but now we need to start questioning everything.
well, that's,
And then there's little 5'8" obnoxious guys that are willing to scream. And God bless the fact that I'm at Noblesville and they support this. Like I'm privileged that people are like, oh, you're still in the classroom? How's that happen? It happens because I have a very forward-thinking school corporation. And I always want to give credit back to them because they allowed me to do this crazy thing.
well, we have to take a break. You mentioned lawmakers, and I think I want to talk a little
All
bit
right,
about
sure.
that as a stakeholder.
Okay.
When we come back from this break on DisruptEDtv, we'll be right back with more of a very impassioned and very wise and a lot of fun. Don Wettrick. We'll be right back.
Cool.
Yeah. I would know it. Welcome back to DisruptEDtv. My name is Al Cini.
I'm Joe Osmendi.
And our guest today is Don Wettrick, which is our privilege to introduce to you. If you haven't heard of him, here's your chance. If you have heard of him, here's the chance to get to know him better. Don, just before the break, you mentioned another stakeholder, an important stakeholder in this whole process. We talked about parents,
Right.
obviously students and teachers and administrators, lawmakers. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think our last two dragons to slay, metaphorically, are the colleges and lawmakers. And I'll break both of them down. I'll start with colleges first. Look, first of all, they know they're being disrupted. And who's disrupting them? YouTube, ironically enough. Online. There are a lot of people now, like I've heard of heavy machine operators going a year without being able to fill a job because there's no qualified applicants. They're starting to get the word out that we can hire you immediately. You can go to school for 1 or 2 years and
Learn how to be a heavy-
$90,000+.
Right.
Colleges also need to start getting realistic on how expensive you are. Kids need to be more realistic that it doesn't have to be club university. I think that it's great that your dorm room is equipped with a coffee bar and a rock climbing wall, but we need to start thinking, is it worth the money? The other thing is that they also need to think, like, do we need to keep offering some of these things? Like at some point we stopped teaching Greek, right?
Seriously.
Yeah.
Like at some point we're like, hey, we don't need to do this anymore because it no longer has a bearing.
we've seen those
in Latin.
changes happen.
Latin,
In Latin,
Latin,
right?
Certainly.
So I think some of our universities either need to severely discount things that are no longer in demand, and then also have it affordable because the opportunity cost is ridiculous. So let's just take, for example, universities need to rethink like training our medical professionals. First of all, 90%, I shouldn't quote, a lot of kids that go into pre-med don't make it to med school, so they're left with a degree that's very expensive and they're not going to be in medicine. So then you have a lot of kids wanting to go to med sales.
Right.
There's a clog there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the opportunity cost of the people that do want to go into med is dropping significantly. We're going to have a doctor shortage crisis because by the time you get through medical school, you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Plus, when you make it, the cost of just malpractice insurance is
sure.
absolutely astounding.
Right.
Technically, we have lower taxes now, so it's helped, but like, there's a lot of people that we're going to have a healthcare crisis even more because college is so expensive.
Yeah.
So could we please have a discussion with our college administrators that you're too damned expensive?
Really.
Really.
So these are major structural changes that need to happen. I mean, they're not just little adaptations.
And I think it's going to happen fast, and I think that's why you're seeing more and more little micro universities pop up.
Oh, for sure.
And they're
what
going to
about-
chip away.
Online also.
Oh, well, online
Online
education, I was
education,
just
yeah,
going to say. The whole, we're moving more toward a cafeteria model.
And yet I fear that too, because the other pendulum swing is people still long for the human experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? They long to be together because we can collaborate easier this way, right? I can collaborate with you.
Right.
Online, it's more difficult. It's not. So I still believe in the in-person experience. I really do.
Sure.
Just we need to start talking about cost and keeping that under control. Shout out to my favorite university, Purdue University, has frozen their tuition for 7 years.
Frozen it for 7 years.
Frozen it for 7
Which
years.
is a message to everybody spending money. You can't spend any more.
I probably think, making a lot of people mad. But, I
Well-
mean, he's doing... It's still expensive,
Right.
FYI.
I know.
It's still expensive,
No,
but they're
I
an
know.
engineering university. That is one of the most relevant universities out there because
Absolutely.
90% of what they do is engineering,
Well, you
and
know,
they have frozen their tuition. Just throwing that out there.
It's a shift for higher education away from building empires and
Yes.
toward building solutions, because
Yeah.
that's really what we need. We don't need more edifice. We need more opportunity and,
Absolutely.
and solution space. So that's,
Yeah.
I think that is so key.
Right. So second, then, this is the hard part.
Okay.
Is our lawmakers. So I want to look and tell most school officials, as mad as I've seemed, it's not your fault. I talked about this in the last segment. Here's the domino. Teacher says, I would love to do some of this innovation entrepreneurship. My principal won't let me. Principal says, I'd love to, but the superintendent won't let me. Superintendent says, I'd love to, but the state lawmaker won't let me. All of them were correct. Matter of fact, I've led a blessed life because where I've gotten is because I took some chances and I said, I'm also blessed that, like, if I got fired, I live a simple life. If I got fired, I'd find another job, right? A lot of people aren't in that situation. So I understand it's not their fault. They want to take some risks and they're afraid to.
Sure.
So, damn it, lawmakers. Do the right thing. Start looking at entrepreneurialism and innovation as your key components. Because if you don't, and just for the love, could you just look at the data? Could you see where we're heading?
Right.
And if they do that, they're going to lessen some of the pressure for, like the be-all, like there has to be some benchmarks in education, I get that. So a state standardized test, to throw it out completely might be a little too early to do that yet. But this, like your model is built completely on that, or we're going to rip funding out. There needs to be like some other pathways. So like a school that's not, like inner city schools don't traditionally do well on the standardized test, but if you allow them an opportunity for creativity and innovation and entrepreneurship, they're like, well, they're not good there, but holy crap, do you see what they're doing over there?
What they're doing over here.
Have some models to show that you can be better than just a test taker.
Well, yeah, and you know, to me, that's such a great point too. You've got somebody at some, let's say, federal level who has an idea what they believe schools ought to be doing, but what happens in Indianapolis, Indiana, is a little different from what happens in Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Or who introduces it, because if it's a Democrat, then a Republican's going to say that's the worst idea ever, or if it's a Republican, then the Democrat are stupid.
Then that's
freaking
another thing.
identity politics will ruin this.
When education becomes a football that's used in
But that's
game.
why, look at you educators, you
Yeah.
risk takers. You know who it's hard to say no to? A teacher.
Really.
More teachers need to go in front of people and say, damn it,
Yeah.
why aren't you letting me do this? Kind of like the Girl Scout that shows up to your door. You can't say no to her. She's got cookies.
Right.
You're trying to lose some weight, but damn it, she's nice.
Yeah, yeah.
I need more teachers to go right up to lawmakers and say, don't bullshit me with your rhetoric. I want to help.
Right.
And I think that these things are important. And also, we need to get out of our silos too. That we need to start building those, that I'm just a teacher.
Right.
Bullshit.
Right.
I'm a teacher.
Right.
And I think that what I have an eye on education. You as a politician don't know education.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's the education politician.
Right.
I'm an educator. Help me help you.
See, so the shift then for legislators is to stop thinking about teachers as something you need to regulate, and start teaching.
Empower.
Start thinking about teachers as something you need to help them empower.
Sorry about the audio spikes.
No,
Yeah,
that was great.
I
That's
know,
okay.
I know.
That was a great audio spike, and it was a terrific point to end the program on.
Yeah.
Don Wettrick, what a pleasure it has been to
man.
talk to you
It's been wonderful pleasure,
today.
Don.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you so
appreciate
much.
it.
Wonderful program, and so many ideas and so much advice. It's for so many stakeholders in education. It's just been great.
You can find me on Twitter at Don Wettrick, DonWettrick. You can go to our website, StartEdUpInnovation.com. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/StartEdUp, or just email me at this point, Don at StartEdUpInnovation.com. If you need that person to knock some people over, some lawmakers, and you want a little bulldog at 5'8", I bark and bite pretty good.
This is a DisruptEd and disruptive version, edition of DisruptEDtv, but
Great one.
We couldn't have ended on a better note. Thank you very much,
Don,
Don.
absolutely.
Thank all of you for joining us. This is Joe Asamendi,
And that's Al Cinny.
and we hope you'll join us again for a future episode.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Cool.
That worked out great.
Honest to God.